we're back. Hi. So we're going to read a story about Alexander Calder, and it's called Sandy's Circus. It's written by Tanya Lee Stone and illustrated by Boris Kolikov. Here we go. So this is the first time I am reading this story, and I'm excited to be sharing it with you. Right here you can see some of his creations. Here we go. Let's see if I can get in nice and close so you can see the pictures. There once was an artist named Alexander Calder. Only he didn't call himself Alexander, and he didn't call the things he made art. Everyone called him Sandy. He had been making his objects since he was a kid. Sandy's mother was a painter. His father was a sculptor. Even though they moved from Pennsylvania to Arizona to California to New York and back to California, his parents always made sure Sandy had a workshop and tools. He made his friends toys and jewelry from scraps of wood, leather, and wire he would pick up off the street. Sandy built his sister Peggy a castle for her doll, complete with a moat. He and Peggy made toy animals and played circus in the workshop. Even though Sandy loved creating things, he didn't always want to be an artist. He went to college and learned more about making things by studying to be an engineer. Sandy had different jobs, but never really liked any of them. Then he worked as a fireman in the boiler room of a ship. One night he was sleeping up on the deck, sailing between San Francisco and New York. When he woke, he was awestruck. That means he saw something really awesome and cool and was speechless. Wow, so awesome. On one side of the ship was a fiery red sunrise. On the other, the full moon shone like a silver coin. The sight made Sandy want to go to art school, and he did. So awestruck, he was speechless. He saw something so beautiful, he didn't even know what to say. But that beauty made him want to create things. Artists need to work because sometimes their art is not always purchased. Remember, we learned a little bit about Van Gogh, how he did all his paintings, but his paintings didn't become famous until after he passed away. So artists have to work alongside doing their art. A newspaper hired Sandy to draw the Ringling Brothers in Barnum and Bailey Circus. For 2 weeks, day and night, he went to the stadium drawing many different parts of the circus as he could. He loved sketching the elephants, the flying trapeze, the lion tamer, and the dancers. Sandy sat in different parts of the theater to see from up high, down low, and off to the side. Look at that. That man's putting his head inside a lion's mouth. Do you think he'd want to try that? Not me. The next year, 1926, he decided to go to Paris. Why Paris? Because that city was alive with art, and Sandy said, in Paris, it's a compliment to be called crazy. Maybe I should move to Paris. Sandy rode through the streets of Paris on his orange bicycle. He carried a roll of wire around on his shoulder and a pair of pliers in his pocket. When Sandy bumped into a friend, out came the wire and pliers. He would twist and bend and curl while he chatted. And before they said adieu, that means goodbye, Sandy would give his friend a gift. Voila! A small portrait of the person made out of wire. One day, Sandy made a little wire lion. He built a colorful cage for the lion. Of course, since the lion was a wild animal, it needed a tamer, so Sandy made him one too. When he made then he made high wire walkers and a high wire for them to walk on, and a safety net in case they should fall, and a flying trapeze, and a red stage. Sandy started to see a whole circus come to life before his eyes. So you see how working for the newspaper sort of gave him these ideas and influenced his art a little bit? Then he really got going. His huge hands worked with tiny pieces of wire, cork, cloth, buttons, yarn, string, leather, paper, and bits of wood. He twisted and shaped and curled and cut and curved until, what do you think he's creating? Let's see. Sandy was ready to put on a big top circus show. His circus filled 2 suitcases. Click, click. Sandy set up the stage with his animals and performers wherever and whenever he could. He went back and forth from Paris to New York, those suitcases always along for the ride. During one stay in New York, Sandy made more animals and acrobats. His circus grew to fill 5 suitcases. When it was showtime, out came the suitcases. Click, 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 click. A friend wound up the gramophone to start the music. And what's a gramophone, you might ask? Well, it is an old-fashioned record player. And what's a record player, Mrs. Tashoff? Well, a record player is the way we used to listen to music before they created CDs and Spotify. But I think a lot of you probably have a record player in your house. Sandy boomed a greeting to his audience in the voice of his wire ringmaster, Monsieur Loyal, announcing the performance was about to begin. On his knees, this bear of a man worked the springs and strings and levers of his clever creations, making them leap, run, and dance. Hear the whistle blow, horns blare. See the flying Filipinos flip. The lion roars. The lion tamer tames. Seals bark, tossing a ball from nose to nose. Rigolo, the strong man, bends to his toes and raises a huge barbell high above his head, showing off for his beloved bearded lady. Horses gallop, birds flutter, dogs dance on whirly, twirly legs. Cativo the clown plays tricks on his fellow performers. He dangerously distracts the axe thrower just as he hurls his axe at the wire girl. Oh no! Injury under the big top. But never fear, help is on the way. Sirens wail. 2 wire rescue workers race in to carry the girl off on a teeny tiny stretcher. Sometimes the show went on for hours. There were chariot races and bucking broncos, a belly dancer, camel and kangaroo. Sandy crawled around on his hands and knees, arranging his wire animals and circus folk, setting them in motion to perform for the crowd. After the grand finale, he brought them all back for a bow. Encore, encore, the crowd laughed and clapped and cheered for more. Word spread through Paris and New York. Everyone wanted to see Sandy's circus. They loved how full of joy and fun it was. They loved how Sandy's work was always in motion. That means it was always moving. People said he has discovered in playing a new world. His art has the force of the ocean. Imagine that, a grown man playing. I like to play too. Sandy delighted in crafting things that moved. He made new kinds of art, hanging his shapes up, connecting pieces to each other with wire, and letting the air drift and spin them into motion. In doing so, he turned ordinary objects into extraordinary art and invented the very first mobiles. And it all started with Sandy's magical, movable circus. Wow. What a talented man. I loved all of his wire creatures and how he acted. He made them all move around. That's pretty cool. All right, so really quickly here, push this over here. Hello. So I pulled together some things and to give you some ideas of how you might create a mobile of your own. Now, when I was a kid, a lot of times when I had homework to do for school, maybe I had to describe a story, or I had to do some kind of project on a certain topic. A lot of times I liked to make mobiles because I thought they were kind of cool, and I liked to be able to tell the story that way. So I always used a hanger. I had a plastic hanger right here. I used to use the metal ones, but I'm sure that you must have a few of these in your house, and you can actually hang these are streamers, and I put little fish on the bottom of the streamers there. You can use yarn or string to hang your objects off of the hanger here. I have some purple yarn, but you may have some different kind of string or yarn laying around your house. And then you can attach things to the bottoms of the string. You could use glue together popsicle sticks and hang those down here if you wanted to. I actually found that one of the shells I found at the beach the other day had a hole in it, so I was able to attach it to this pipe cleaner. You can use string or pipe cleaner or whatever you want to hang off of here, and of course everything flutters and moves when it's hanging off of that. Now you might remember that in the beginning of the year, I'm going to turn you guys around, we made a mobile out of your self-portraits and your little hands. Remember that? And that is hanging, and we've hung it off of a piece of driftwood that I found down by the Hudson River. So mobiles can be made out of all different types of materials, and I want to give you another idea here. This mobile is made out of different parts of your face. Very similar to like the Picasso project that we were talking about. And this one I love, and this would be really cool to create. What do you see there? Yes, all things from nature. So you could make a nature mobile. You see the sticks up on the top? And you could add beads to it, and I see some pine cones. If you have some shells at home that have holes in them that you could stick the string through, you could use those. So that would be a really cool idea too. And the last thing I wanted to show you, now we looked at some of Alexander Calder's mobiles, and some hung down from the ceiling, but he also had some that stood on the tabletop. And I created this one out of pipe cleaners, and I used some of your old paintings. We had some of these scraps in the scrap bin, so I cut out some different shapes, and I just used Scotch tape to tape the shape to the pipe cleaner. And the cool thing about the pipe cleaners are you can bend them up so that your shapes can be pointing in all different directions. And they bounce, and they swing, and they look really cool. Every time it moves a little bit, it jiggles. So what you might want to do is in the morning start by painting a piece of white paper and using different things to make different patterns, like dragging a fork across the paint, or cutting pieces of cardboard and dragging it across the paint, using your fingers to drag across the paint. Once you've let that dry, maybe after lunch, you then take the paper and you take some scissors and you start to cut out a shape. You can cut some triangles like that, and then you can glue them on to your pipe cleaners if you have some of those at home. Maybe your grown-ups might have some thin wire hanging around in their workshop or in their toolbox. You could use that. It was a little tough getting these inside of the tube, so you might need a little help from a grown-up with that. But other than that, you should be able to create something really awesome all on your own. So I'm looking forward to seeing some of the things that you are going to make. Remember to email me some pictures, please, of yourself, either creating or your finished product. I would love to see it. If you get a moment today, send Cecilia a little happy birthday note through email if you can. And I will be talking to you soon, guys. Thanks so much for joining me today. And I look forward to our next adventure. All right. Bye-bye. See ya.